did is I spent, I'm not trying to be a martyr or a victim, but I spent hours poring over every random file we had on our shared drive, on my camera, things I had backed up, anywhere I could find pictures, just trying to select kind of the highlights or the lowlights of our church history. So that's kind of what this is an assimilation of. We're going to miss some things, but these were just things that were memorable to me. And I wanted to have Heidi jump in on some of the things that she would remember about them. So we just called this a trip down going back to '09 when we would have started. And so these are some pictures from our history. So these kind of flow chronologically, if that helps you. So this would start in the spring of '09, and then we work all the way through this weekend. So the last 12 years in a few pictures. So I'm going to show you a few pictures, first of all, of this would be Keene Elementary, where we first met. I don't know if you know where Keene Elementary is. It'd be across from the high school. These are a couple of the men helping move stuff in. We would have been in a trailer. We had to move all of our stuff in and out every Sunday. And I don't know if you can see, there's a guy carrying a changing table. Can anybody tell who that is there on the right? That's Brother Moses there, a little younger and a little more smiley maybe. No, I'm just kidding, Moses. But he's helping us that first week. And Heidi can jump in on this if there's a memory. But I remember asking him, I said, Pop, I said, what do you think? God's maybe calling me to us to plant a church, and what are your thoughts on that? I don't know if he remembers this conversation. He's pastored and planted. And he said, are you asking me as your father-in-law, or are you asking me as a fellow pastor? He said, if you're asking a father-in-law, go pastor an established church. Don't plant a church. Don't be crazy. He was tongue-in-cheek, kind of joking with me on that. But it's been a pleasure to have him serve with us both in the early days, and then they moved here to Wayne County just a year or so ago. And he came and taught our adult Bible class for, I don't know, how long was that? Do you remember, Moses? What's it? Several years. He says several years, emphasis on the word several. But he would come and teach our adult Sunday school class, and was just a real bolster to a young pastor, both as my father-in-law and then just as someone that believed in what God had called us to do. And so I'm grateful for that. Anything you want to add to that, Heidi? All right. So that's the first picture. The second one, this would be, Heidi may have some input on this. This is our nursery right here. So the school only gave us the gym and a hallway was it. And so we just took some portable fencing and fenced in. That's Landon, if you can tell. That's him at like, how old was he there? Use your mic there.
Two-ish, yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to tell who's beside him.
Yeah, I think that, I'm not sure who this is. But anyway, that's all we had. And the floor was nasty. We brought in this big old roll of carpet to try to make it look halfway respectable. Mm-hmm. I think Schlegels would have been some of the first parents to trust us enough to put their kids in that pen there. But that was
and the pen wasn't secured. Like if they would have pushed on it, they could have escaped.
Yeah, it's just kind of wedged between those two chairs there that you see on the right and left. So that kind of gives you a sense of how high tech we were back in the day. Mm-hmm. And then the last picture from Keene would be, this is the gym. So we would have used, there's a stage back there. We would have met for prayer before we started each service with some of the men, and then just the gymnasium there. We had to bring in our own chairs. The school didn't even have chairs. They had kind of those like fold-out tables for lunch, but their chairs either were in such bad shape or we didn't have enough of them, so we had to move in all of our chairs each week. So that was pretty labor-intensive. We were only there for about 3 months. This is a picture of us at Easter. And, sorry, Ian. Ian is really into church planting from the beginning. He has just been into it. But this is our first Easter, and no beard for me, and I got a part there going on. And then Landon, like Heidi said, just pretty young there as well. But that would have been us Easter. Just to give you a sense, we would have had the church office beneath where we're sitting. So we had the church office and our living quarters all in a duplex, 1,400 square foot duplex. The basement was kind of our storage for all of our John and Romans and some of that stuff. So it was just kind of a unique phase. The one memory that I have, I don't know if Heidi has something on this, would be we would do midweek services at Keene Elementary. We would meet there, and we would we're having baked potatoes, aren't we tonight, ladies, I think? We would put baked potatoes in the oven, and we'd put them in, and then we'd come home and have baked potatoes after church on our big strapping church planter budget. That's what we did, and we would eat those every Wednesday night. Just remember that memory. We'd put them in and then come home and load everything in our minivan, take it to the school. So those are just some fond memories there. of that season. All right? Okay, next. This would be the second building we were in. This is on the corner of Oak Hill and Milltown. One of the challenges was we had passed out, the John and Romans had our original location, and then we moved like literally 3 months later. So all of our literature, this building came open to lease. There's a little parsonage that we use for the church offices and classroom space. But anyway, so we were there for several years. Any memories from that season, Hyde, of note? I'll show a few more pictures and you can jump in. This would be our charter. So these would be all the people who gave up on me as a pastor for the most part, to be honest with you. You can't read their names, that's why I put it up. But you'll notice on the far right, about halfway down, is a guy named Nathan Schlegel. I don't know if you've heard of him or not. And Miss Katie are there. And so they were a part of our charter service that was the last Sunday of September, which is kind of when we celebrate our anniversary each year, either the last Sunday of September, the 1st of October. This is a picture of the guys picking on me because you know I like my clothes perfect and clean. You see that nice crisp white shirt? And I'm getting hugged by a couple of guys who did the Bodyguard Skit. Have you heard of this skit? Where you have two kings sitting at a table and they keep insulting each other. And then the one king has his bodyguard do something to the other guy's bodyguard. So there's chocolate syrup and all kinds of stuff. But the guy on the left is Calvin Hauser, one of our missionaries we support in the Philippines. He came and helped us for a few months. So that was a great, good memories there. This is Pastor Nathan and his young family. I think Nathan, I don't know if you're in the room, but they came, I think, the second or third service and visited. Pastor Nathan tells the story. He would get online every week and check online what new churches are in Worcester and looking for one that he felt like God had led their family to. And one week our website came up, and they have been here ever since. But that would have been, I think, shortly after we moved into that building. This is a moment in church history right here. As far as I know, this is one of the first times that Nathan and Dave, our two assistant pastors, met. And I think Nate may regret this moment. No, I'm just kidding. Or maybe it's Dave that regrets this moment. When did you say you came again, Dave? Okay, so this would have been, I think, shortly after they started visiting again, all in this Oak Hill building as God, we didn't know it was beginning to form our pastoral staff team, and grateful to see God do that. This is definitely one of the high moments in our church history. Pastor Dave shortly got involved in the very serious part of ministry in our church. Yeah, right. And we had this was a skit where it was Pastor Dave, and I don't know who the other guy is there on the floor. Does anybody know who that is? Can you tell? But it was a battle between the golden chair and Pastor Dave. So they had like this huge battle, and the golden chair won. Dumb skit, but it was a fun moment that I remember with Pastor Dave, kind of the first memorable thing. This is the Cottoners early on. All the girls are oohing and awing over there. And just amazing how young their kids. That's pre a few kids, isn't it, Miss Brandy? But appreciate the Cottoners and how God has led them to our church. All right, next, we didn't have, obviously in the buildings that we had, we didn't have baptistry. So this is a picture of us doing baptisms at Loudounville Baptist Temple, which is about 25 minutes south of us. And so that's where we would go. And we'd drive down there after a morning service and do baptisms. We did that for several years. And a lot of good memories, a lot of folks that God led us to be a part of. This is the Carneys. And this, I think, is the earliest picture I could find of them. So I got another picture of Josh in a minute. You want to see this picture, okay? So this is his more formal one here. But anyway, I appreciate Josh and Rachel and God leading them our way as well, and how they help with worship and ministry here. All right, next. Heidi, you're not saying much here.
You're saying it all.
Yeah, right. That's loaded. You guys know that, don't you? That means I'm hogging the space. All right. Anything you would say on those ones or this one?
I'm trying to think why you chose this one, what you want me to say
Well, I mean,
about
the
this.
guy on the right is a sharp, spiritual leader.
That goes unsaid.
Yeah.
The sign maybe, because we had to change the name of our church from North Point to North Life, because there was a lot of confusion, because there were a lot of point churches in Worcester, right?
Yeah, we had
And we have
yeah.
a lot of confusion, so we went from North Point to North Life at one point.
At one point, yeah.
Yes, at one point without the E.
We had a multi-site church that moved into town, and people would just hear New Point, and I've met some of the staff there, but they would just hear Point. Oh, yeah, you guys just moved in. We kept getting that confusion, so when we moved here, we would change the name to North Life.
But Greenbrier, this is where we started at
Yeah.
Greenbrier, which was an amazing, again, God just working and opening doors that we couldn't have foreseen. This building, though, when we first came to Worcester and we were just getting a feel of the land, when we still lived in Michigan, we had seen this building and thought it would be a perfect place to have a church, and several pastor friends said, hey, that location would be a perfect place to have a church. It didn't work out right away, but several years down the road, God opened that door, which was an amazing facility. But more than that, most of you know that the owners of that facility, the Steins, most of you know the Steins got saved as a result of us meeting in that building. So that was the bigger picture of it all.
And those are just amazing memories to think about. Steins, I'm sure, will probably be here tomorrow, but just to see God work in their family through that. Actually, this building was in our deputation video, so when we traveled to raise initial temporary support for the church plant, I have actually the door that's right behind where I'm standing. We had a zoomed-in video, just zooming in on it, because I really thought we were going to start in this building, and it took about 3 years, and then we ended up landing there for several years. So it was just neat to see how God, and then obviously seeing the Steins and spiritual growth in their hearts. So, and I think I'm looking out, we're going to talk about it in a minute more, but I see Miss Shirley here and some others. We met some people only because we were in that building. And so it's not about the buildings, but the relationships that we built. And even in this facility, people that we met. Yesterday, I was out, what's today? Saturday. Friday, a few of us were out canvassing for our night of worship in Orville coming up in October. And I was talking to the lady at a yard sale, and a guy was looking at her stuff on the table and said, hey, my wife worked at the Memories right when it closed. She knows you. And so it's just all those touches, those moments, those providential intersections. So as we kind of go through these, I hope you don't just get caught on the places, but the people that we met there. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Hyde. This would be Pastor Kohler, Dave Kohler, who pastors in Loudounville, and I bring this picture up. This was him preaching, I think, at our 3rd anniversary. But where the genesis of North Life began was me sitting in a living room of one of his church members in Loudounville, and they were talking about a need for a church in Worcester, and I was actually speaking for his VBS at the time. And I don't know if you ever had something where God just started speaking to you, and you're like, I'll pray about it, but you already kind of know there's something there. And we've been praying about church planting, but I knew in that living room there's something to this, and through a lot of other circumstances, God led us. But I appreciate Brother Kohler, and he and I worked in bus ministry and things together in my growing up years. But I appreciate Brother Kohler and his role in our church history. All right, next, this is Miss Cindy Horn. I just wanted to share briefly her testimony. Just because I think it's a good example of our church and what God has done. I remember every service, as you guys know, I will say at the end, I give opportunity to respond to the gospel, right? I don't know that there's been a service I've not done that in our 12 years, and that's been instilled in me by others. But this lady, Cindy, Miss Cindy came with a friend of hers for over a year, and I would watch her during the invitation. Heads are bowed, and does anybody want to receive Christ, or you recognize your need? And at first, she just was there, and then eventually she would start looking at me during the invitation. Then eventually her hand went up. This was over a 9-month sequence. And so I said something to her after church, and she met with me in my office there upstairs, overlooking kind of where the auditorium was. And she knew what she needed to do, but she just wanted me to be there when she did it. And she received Christ, and for several years she played violin in our church, and now she's gone on to serve the Lord in other capacities. But Cindy's just one of those that God has used North Life to reach with the gospel, and just through her life, it's been neat to see what God's doing in her. So I'm grateful for Cindy, amongst others, that God has used us to reach. Next, one of the things we instituted years ago was a connection card. And this is one of my all-time favorites. I'll show you one more at the end, but this is from one of our kiddos. I don't know that I looked at what's crossed out in the bottom. Hopefully it's appropriate. But anyway, in the middle it just says, "Thanks for being the pastor." And I'm grateful. Our church has a lot of young people, and that they let me be their pastor. And I love you kids and appreciate you, and it's a joy to be a part of what God's doing here. All right, next. There are a few poignant memories that are connected to our church, and this would be one of them. The couple being married that you see feeding each other cake, the gentleman there with the cake in the hand, his name is Johnny. And this would have been, I think I wrote down, this was in 13, so this was 2013. The year before, at that building I told you about where our church office was in the parsonage, I was in there by myself one day studying, and a knock on the door, and you're like, who is it? How they even know this is, church office or what they want? And so I opened the door, and Johnny was at the door, and I shared this later in his life, but he said, I need rules. I heard you Baptists have them, so let's talk. And I was just like, okay, come on in. Really, usually I hear you Baptists have rules, and I want nothing to do with you. That's more the vibe I get. And so Johnny, I was able to disciple him. He grew in his faith. He just had that gregarious, he just drew people to him. A lot of people that came to our church in those days either knew Johnny or he had personally invited them. So I had the privilege to marry him and Cindy. She lives in Louisville to this day. But Johnny, about 9 months after this picture, got hit head on. A guy was texting, killed him instantly. And I miss him. I really do. One of the neat things, though, is I got to preach his funeral. Over a dozen people got saved. And I'm thankful for Johnny. That building, meeting him. Can't wait to see him again. But it's those guys that we made a difference. And your giving, your partnership. There are a lot of Johnnies. A lot of people that were at a low. They were discouraged. They were disconnected. And God brought along our little church to minister to them. And we still connect with Cindy and try to encourage her and support her. There's a little girl that was the result of this marriage. Her name is Johnny, and they spell it a little differently, but a sweet little girl. And just to see what God's doing in that family. But I'm thankful for Johnny and God leading him our way. And just where we were at that moment, where he was at, that intersection was just was an incredible season. So I'm grateful for that. Anything you would say on that, Heidi?
Yeah, no, I think you said it all, but yeah, his testimony was incredible and just gave everybody the benefit of the doubt and not a negative word to say about anybody. And you wonder why, just as he was kind of hitting a stride, that would happen, but just to see at his funeral what God accomplished, he would have been very happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, so then I tried to pick just one picture of so this would have been what service would have looked like in this party center, the Greenbrier, and this is Easter of 2014. Just all the setup and tear down. One time I did the math of how many chairs we set up. Again, this was a building we were able to use their chairs, but we had to pull walls. A lot of times we'd have weddings. One of the worst things was, what water beads are? They put them like in planters, to like keep plants moist, I guess, or whatever. They'd have proms with these water beads, and the kids are like flicking them everywhere. And we'd have to come in and literally, the room that we met in was at least twice the size of this square footage of this room. And you'd just be vacuuming, just sucking up all these water beads, and who knows what that does to a vacuum over the long haul. But anyway, I just remember late nights, and some of the men in this room and others that have moved on maybe to other places, just the late nights, we'd come in the building, just be trashed. It would smell like alcohol. It was rough. It was a rough season, and we did that for 5 years. And so I just wanted to say thank you to the men that stuck with us in that season. And I remember the first night, so we had our opening service there the beginning of March of, been 13. And I remember the first night we set up and thinking, oh no, like we had jumped into this building, and it took forever to clean up and set up. And so anyway, those 5 years, I'm grateful for a lot of memories there, but that part of it wasn't necessarily always so fun. All right, everybody ready for the Josh picture? Josh, are you ready for this picture? One of the running jokes with Brother Josh is early on, he moved from California, is we would have like a special day, a sweater day or whatever, and he would pull out all the stops, and the rest of us would like have a normal sweater on or whatever the case may be. So I'm not sure. Dave and I talked about this picture when this was, but here is Brother Josh. Is Miss Rachel, is that kangaroo? Is that what it is? Okay, and I would have to say Miss Rachel may have had a hand in crafting this very impressive outfit here, but anyway, I appreciate Brother Josh. And one year we did, I couldn't find the picture. He's probably glad for this. Did you get it or did I get it? The elf, the sweater? Who got it? Yeah. Oh, it was Nate? Nick Hinkle. Ah, okay. And so it was, have you ever seen where it's an elf in one side and Santa in the other? So he and I led a song of worship with me with one arm in the elf side, I think, and him in the Santa. So, but anyway, I appreciate Brother Josh and his love for fun and willing to wear whatever his wife makes. All right. This is a shout out to our leadership team. We'll be meeting again tomorrow with Brother Rand's teaching us, but this is a throwback to, what camp was this? Down near Pleasant. What is it, Dave? New Hope. Yeah, New Hope down near Perrysville. But we have gone away every year since we started. The last few years we haven't as much with COVID and things, but just the church theme, the annual vision, and we stayed up till the wee hours of the morning in this place, and just a lot of good memories. I'm grateful for those who serve in that capacity over the years, their help through the things that we've been through together. I'm grateful for that. All right, I thought this was a neat picture of the kids. This is in the lobby. The lobby of the Greenbrier was real fancy, and Heidi's there with one of our other ladies doing Christmas in their PJs. One must have been around Christmas, obviously, but just some good memories there.
I think it was Pee Wee Club.
Pee Wee Club?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, they would do the Pee Wee, Patch the Pirate together. So that's a good memory. All right, a few more. This is a good picture. We had no small rooms at the Greenbrier, so we would use everywhere. This is a balcony that's meant to be for pictures, and like it's an ornate conference center. And Miss Carrie there, you can see her wagging her finger, is teaching, I think it's the 4th through 6th grade girls. And our teachers, they would meet in hallways. They would meet on the balcony. They would meet, I don't think they met outside, but they would meet anywhere we could find to have separate classrooms for the kids. And Miss Carrie, that you can see her finger there, this would be another, I think, way God has affirmed, or did affirm us coming here. My brother was in Northern Ireland as a missionary. I was praying about going to Worcester to start a church. And Carrie's husband, Dan, was in Northern Ireland. He's Irish. And he called up my brother because he saw he was a missionary there and said, would you mind if we meet for tea, since there's only one other option in Ireland, and that wasn't so acceptable for the believer. They met for tea. And Dan was telling my brother, we've been driving to Ashland. We've been praying about a church being here in Worcester. And Trav called me about that. Like, it was just so crazy, the serendipity of that. I guess would be the superficial way of viewing it. But just seeing God using this conversation to affirm. And they've been here since the beginning, the Snyders. And I'm just grateful for them. And she's been teaching since the beginning in one of our classes. She's right now teaching preschool. Okay, this one I thought was good, just of the building we're in now. This picture, I guess, was really kind of painful for me to see. If you guys can help me there. Are we done? You should cut me off there. They're sleeping. This is a picture of I'll get to that one in a second. This is a picture of, see the ladder there? That's the first fundraising we did to buy a building. I called it our next step offering, and you can see the thermometer is not so full. It's barely at the bottom there. And just thinking about that upward climb, this was probably 7 years ago when we started really intentionally saving for, and then God used monies even that are represented on that to help us purchase this building. So I'm grateful for many of you that partnered with us in that sacrificially. All right, the next one's of Brother Humble. This man served on staff at Mansfield Baptist Temple, our reproducing church, and was so instrumental in helping us get started, just really helped us with those opening meetings and tons of planning. The other thing we did in the Greenbriers, we had dividing walls everywhere, And this is just a couple of our guys. I think it's Nick and Brian doing puppets over a divider wall into a kid's classroom. We were just so, we just adapted, and I love to see our people do that. We're just in a big conference room, and we would divide it into smaller areas with those divider walls. And so I'm grateful for men and ladies that served during that era. Last one in this year would be, did you guys hear about my helicopter that I have? Did you hear about this? I'm just kidding. This man, his name is Terry, a friend of ours from Michigan. You guys don't know him. I don't think he ever came to church here. I tried to get him to come a couple of times. But he's obviously has a bit of means. He's a businessman in Michigan. And he gave a significant amount of money to actually help us with the Phase 1 renovation. And I just wanted to, I know he wouldn't want me to show an actual picture of him, but he flew in, landed actually at the Wayne Elementary building. Remember, we were looking at that building? He landed in that grass field. We met, went and talked about some options, and then later he gave some monies to help. And he's helped our family in other ways in the past when we were in Michigan. So I just wanted to thank the Lord for him as well. All right, next. We're going to say something?
I don't know. Did you want me to say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. You looked at me like I should say something. No, I was just going to say, yeah, he landed in Worcester. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, ooh,
Yeah.
what's happening? The president? We don't know.
All right. The next picture will be the Steins. These folks were gracious to let us use their building there at Greenbrier for 5 years, and so just wanted to put a shout out to them. All right, so now we're moving to this building. So we would have shared, here's the irony. We had to set up and tear down, then we moved here, and the people in this side of the building had a year left on their contract. So we actually had to set up and tear down for the first year of owning our building after doing it for 5 years. And I can't tell you how painful that was to come to terms with that. I didn't do most of the setup and tear down, but just knowing that and then going to the guys, hey, we found a building that we can buy. We have to still set up for a year. And you could see them like looking at me like, what are you thinking here? You know, it was just, so we actually, their sign, of course, was on top and ours was underneath, and the confusion of that. So we would come in still on Saturday nights or Sunday morning, and we'd set this room up. Even after we owned the building, we had to lease there for a year with all of that. So that was a fun. The chair you're in probably is a little more comfortable than where we started. Those pink chairs. Can you see the planters along the wall? They had like planters everywhere, these dusty planters, and we were always knocking them over. And anyway, just always moving those things around. So that's kind of what it looked like when we first moved in. No stage or any of that. This was our trip to Mexico. So you can see a few of us have aged a bit since then. We went, that was our first mission trip that we went on. Pastor Dave, our fearless leader, got us there and back, and we're grateful for that. It was a good trip down to Brother Ortiz in Mexico City. I had to put this in, Nick. This is Nick with what he called Fruta Cup. He loved these things. They were like, they'd have like pineapple or something in a melon, some sort of melon, and then they put this red crystallized salt sugar thing on top. And he ate, I think one day he ate 3 of them, and he got sick. Like he was, I mean, this is like a street vendor in Mexico City, and he just, yeah, give me another one, and he would eat those. And so, but Nick's one of our deacons, and I appreciate him and all he's done to help us. This is phase 1, so this would be the classroom wing. There was actually a garage door into that space. There was a drive-through, used to be in that side of the building. So we framed in those classrooms. It's just a little, at least a little snippet. Any of you remember the first VBS we had here? This is why we didn't have this building, this side. We did VBS in 5,000 square feet of building with probably 90 kids. This is game time. Game time in this one little room, and we were just trying not to ding up the new walls we had just built, and there were kids everywhere, and it was a good memory. This would be a picture of, and there are a lot of pictures I thought of showing, but we did baptism secondly after Loudounville. We did it at the Days Inn, so we used their hotel pool for several years. And Miss Shirley, this is a picture of Howard. Miss Shirley is here tonight. But Pastor Dave and I, one of the highlights probably of our 12 years and the 10 years or so Dave and I have been serving is we stopped by the Ravers and walked in the living room. I still remember the moment, Miss Shirley, and we were able to lead Howard, her husband, to the Lord just a few years ago. What year would that have been, Miss Shirley? A few. 16? Okay. And this is him getting baptized. But Miss Shirley prayed for him to get saved for over 30 years. And I remember just hearing her kind of weeping quietly in the corner while he prayed. It was an awesome moment. He's with the Lord today. And again, the Johnnies, the Cindys, the Howards, the ministry of what God's done. Just a great memory there. All right. I don't know what's going on, guys. You're hurting me up here. Oh, there we go. Is it going now? Miss Thea, just wanted to show a picture of her. Shout out Paul that plays our bass on Sunday mornings. His wife Thea moved here from Michigan to help us. We're really instrumental and helpful through the years, and I'm grateful for them and their ministry. Cottoners, obviously with our boys being in the youth group, this is a throwback. I don't know what year this is. I think that's Carter on top of the C there, looking a little younger than he does now. Trying to see who else. Does anybody else see anybody you know? Brendan's on the E.
Oh,
That's
my.
Brendan. Like half. Is he here tonight? Okay, like half the size of what he is now. What he normally is. Okay. Yeah, just that's several years ago. Were you gonna say something there, Heidi? Okay. A few more. This is another poignant memory. If you look right under, this is a shot from an airplane. If you look kind of under the prop, there's a red roof. Do you see that there? Any guess on what that is? That's this building. We have a red roof. This would have been, I wrote down the date. This was, I believe this was November the 12th of 2018. And that following January, the man that I was flying with, Curtis Wilkerson, went home to be with the Lord. And I still remember that day, flying with him, the conversation we had, and he took me up over the church building a few times. And I don't know if Miss Lori's here tonight or not, but she is. And Brother Seth, this is his dad. But I'm just grateful for that memory. And we talked about the church, and we talked about the Lord, and he's much higher than the altitude that this picture is taken from. And so I'm just grateful for him and the few years that I was able to serve the Lord with him and be his pastor. And to Miss Lori, I miss him. So thankful for that memory as well. All right, next, this would be a picture of our missions conference. And I picked this because these are a few kind of key missionary friends. Brother Fielder, who's in the middle, that kind of would have been Jeremy and I, Pastor Rands and I, our connection. I think we knew of each other, but he was instrumental in that friendship beginning. But I appreciate Brother Fielder, who was with us our first missions conference. Brother Ortiz, who's in Mexico City, that we've been there to his work, and excited to see how God's using him. And then Brother Pack, who's in Japan. But just a few of our missionaries, and grateful for the many that we've been able to partner with over the years. All right, this next picture is for you, Hyde. Do you remember this? Yeah. All right, can you talk about it for a minute? All right, go ahead.
Yeah, this is my 40th birthday party that you all surprised me with, which I wasn't expecting at all. I'd never had a surprise birthday party in my whole life, and at 40, it was it. So, yeah, there was church, and then Pastor and Rachel had figured out how to coordinate this whole big event and had family come in after church, and it was a wonderful surprise, something I'll always remember.
Yep, all right.
It was awesome.
This is, thank you, that's phase 2, so that's the lobby. If you're wondering what that looked like, that was just an open space. You can see the hallway kind of going in when we first blew through the building there to the other side. But we had just a lot of work to do in that section, fire rating, et cetera. And many of you did drywall work and helped us with that. Brother Heath Studer was instrumental in that, and others. And just a good first impression as people come in our church building. So appreciate all those who helped us with that. This would have been 2 years ago. We had our 10th anniversary, and I had the idea to bring in cement blocks, Pastor Rands, and do the number 10. And I got them in here, and we started stacking them. Like, this is crazy. We did forget how many cement block we had. Tim Christensen was here to preach that year, but this is our kids choir singing, and a few that have now moved on, I think, to being teenagers are there in the picture. But that was 2 years ago, so it kind of gives you a sense of that. And then this would be Brother Stauffer, Miss Levon, who are here tonight. Brother Stoffer, I'm grateful God has led your family here, and we began talking about he's a chaplain. We began our First Responders Day, I think 3 years ago, and just grateful to see how God is using him. He's now going more into trying to move toward full-time, being in chaplaincy ministry, and it's been a privilege for our church to partner with him in that. And so, Brother Kurt, I appreciate you and allowing me to be a part of that burden and vision through our church here locally, and excited to see how God's going to use you in the days ahead. Next picture, now we're moving almost to COVID, so we're going to talk for a minute about that. There's a really sharp guy down front, albino, and then you got all the natives there, the Indian gentleman behind me. But this would have been in February of last year. It feels like, Brother Jeremy and I were talking, it feels like a lot longer than that ago. That's where he and I would have first met, at least at length. And so we were in India, and I just wanted to thank the church for letting me be able to go on that and to provide the funds and the time to be able to get away to that. But if you remember, we were trying to get back, and that was right when the COVID thing was beginning, the rumblings of that, and so we were just trying to work through getting back. And so anyway, just lots of memories connected to that. It seems like kind of a definitive moment. Two more pictures of that season. One would be, this is me live stream preaching. I just wanted to say thank you. I may say something again tomorrow, but Pastor Dave especially, who on the fly was learning how to, for us to, we were already live streaming, but not at the rate or only doing that. And he did a ton to help us get things in place for that. But that's a lonely moment. I think that was the first Sunday you guys were all home playing it safe, and I'm here preaching. I'm just kidding, but I just remember that is a definitive moment, and I cannot believe that's only been a year and a half ago. That feels like, honestly, 5 years ago, as I just feel in response to that. But I'm thankful for those who helped us, and I think just us staying together, staying connected, it was just a key season for us. I won't play much of this, but this is our drive-in service because you can only hear me singing. But Brother Joseph, fly away when I die. Hallelujah, by and by I'll fly away. Few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a land. All those who help with that. Brother Andrew, this is you. Prior to the year God's had for you, Brother Andrew, shortly after this, found out he was diagnosed with cancer. And last year at our anniversary, he had just built that pulpit that you see there off to the left, and I was thanking him for that. I think even then you weren't feeling maybe so well and trying to figure that out. And it's just been encouraging to see God's grace and strength for you. And anyway, just struck by that when I came across that picture. All right, a couple more and we're done. This would be first baptism in this building. So we have a portable baptistry that we move out when we do baptisms. And Ben there, after receiving Christ and that testimony, he's getting baptized. So he was one of the first ones to get baptized here in the building. Thought I would share that. This is my parents. They helped us with the stage project. Dad does construction, and so we took that picture right at the end of most of this being done, and appreciate them and all they did for that. This would be one of the final pictures. This is July 4th that we had here on Sunday just a few months ago. Two more and we're done. This is probably my favorite connection card I've got besides ones that have accepting Christ as Savior circled. Somebody, I don't even know who this is, to be honest with you. It looks like a lady's writing. What's that?
Maybe a teenager. I don't know.
Could be teenager, but I think it would be of the female persuasion.
The female,
I have decided to just do anything I can to help our church in its progress, its progression. Like, that's awesome. And there are a lot of people that have, whether they've written that or not, they have. And I'm grateful for that as a pastor. All right, last clip is of our boys, and I didn't get their permission, so I'll probably be in trouble after I show this. But one of the things that's interesting to me is how our ministry and our family have tracked together. You can't separate the two. You have distinct roles and whatever. But there's a song that we sing. We sang it, I think, just a week or two ago, Speak, O Lord. And I just wanted to show you this, and I hope you'll catch what impact. And our attitudes in the radiance Isn't that cool? Till your church is built. Till your church is built. And it's just been neat to see God build his church here, and it's been nothing flashy or glamorous, but it's been a God thing, and I'm so grateful for it. And to those who are here tonight that have been with us either for a few weeks or most of this journey, we're grateful, and that God is building his church through people like us with all of our flaws and shortcomings.